The Deltan students recoiled in horror as the human bit into the raw, bloody steak on the holoscreen. Blood dripped down the man's chin. Alien voices cried out in shock and disgust. Jesse Evans smirked as the amphitheater erupted in gasps. The 35-year-old former Marine had expected this reaction when he accepted the job teaching human culture at the Deltan Intergalactic Academy. These naive aliens had a lot to learn about Earth's apex predators. His 7-foot blue Deltan liaison Nesso shook his head in revulsion. "Surely this is some kind of joke or metaphor, Professor Evans. Your kind cannot truly consume the flesh of other beings." Jesse took another bite of steak, chewing slowly. The Deltan youths in the front row looked ready to faint. "I assure you this is no joke," Jesse said. He wiped his mouth. "Humans are omnivores. Meat is the cornerstone of our diet. We are hunters." "Savages!" Nesso spat. The towering alien glared at Jesse with newfound suspicion. Jesse simply shrugged at the predictable response. "Call us what you want, but we didn't claw our way to the top of our planet's food chain by munching on leaves." He looked out at the sea of shocked blue and green faces. "Your people think you understand humans, but you've barely scratched the surface." Nesso puffed up in indignation, opening his mouth to retort, but an ear-splitting alarm drowned out his response. Red lights strobed. A panicked voice boomed over the speaker system. "Attack imminent. Zorlak warships incoming. This is not a drill. Threat level 5. Lockdown initiated." The students screamed. Nesso's blue skin turned a sickly grey. Jesse jumped up and slammed the door controls, sealing the room. They were trapped. Nowhere to run as warships approached, intent on slaughtering them all. The Deltans huddled in confused terror, bleating like helpless sheep. But the wolf, the human, just cracked his knuckles and grinned. It was showtime. He'd show them what humans were really made of. Jesse sprang into action, snatching an energy rifle from a fallen Deltan security guard. He motioned for the huddled students to follow him. About 20 of the young Deltans fell in behind him, Nesso included. Jesse took point, leading the group through the smoke-choked hallways of the besieged academy. The building shook as Zorlak warships bombarded the planet from orbit. Rounding a corner, Jesse came face to face with a squad of hulking Zorlak soldiers. The 5 invaders towered at 8 feet tall, their scaly green skin glistening under the emergency lights. They leveled their pulse rifles at the human. Jesse didn't hesitate. His marine training kicked in as he quickly dispatched 3 of the Zorlaks with precise shots to their elongated heads. Green blood splattered the walls. The remaining 2 invaders turned tail and fled, their courage faltering in the face of Jesse's deadly accuracy. Nesso peeked out from behind a pillar where he had taken cover. His eyes were wide with awe and newfound respect as he regarded Jesse. The human jerked his head, signaling for the group to keep moving. They pushed on towards the Academy's command center. The blast doors to the command center had been sealed. Jesse pounded on the reinforced metal. After a tense moment, the doors slid open, revealing the Deltan headmaster. Zelos was an elderly Deltan male, standing at an impressive 9 feet tall. His blue skin was weathered with age. 10 faculty members huddled behind him, taking shelter in the fortified room. "Professor Evans thanked the stars," Zelos said, ushering Jesse and the students inside. "The Zorlaks are after the Orb of Zor, an ancient artifact of immense power hidden somewhere within the Academy." Jesse frowned. "What does this orb do?" "It grants the wielder the ability to control minds. In the wrong hands it could spell doom for the galaxy." Zelos gripped Jesse's shoulder with a wizened blue hand. "You must find the orb before the Zorlaks. Secure it, do not let them possess it." Jesse nodded grimly. He understood the gravity of the situation. The fate of not just the Academy, but potentially the entire galaxy, rested on his shoulders. He turned to address the huddled Deltans. Jesse picked out Nesso, 3 security officers who clutched energy rifles with shaky hands, and 5 of the most capable-looking students. A female with a quick, intelligent gaze, Lara, he recalled from his class, and a tall male with sharp eyes who had shown promise with target practice, Kyle. You ate with me, Jesse said. We're going to find this orb and stop the Zorlax. The rest of you barricade the door and don't open it for anyone but us. Lara, Kale, and the security officers stepped forward, their jaws set with determination. Neso swallowed hard but nodded. Jesse checked the energy cell on his rifle, still over half-charged. Lock and load, he said, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Time to show these space lizards what humans are really made of. With that, Jesse and his hand-picked team set out into the embattled academy, ready to face whatever dangers lurked ahead. Blaster fire and screams echoed through the corridors. Smoke choked the air. But Jesse forged ahead with the relentless tenacity of a human on a mission. No matter what, he would find the Orb of Zor and stop the Zorlax. These peaceful Deltans were counting on him, and if there was one thing Jesse had learned in his time as a Marine, it was to never let down those under his protection. The hunt was on. Jesse and his ragtag team crept through the Academy's winding corridors, energy rifles at the ready. The once pristine halls were now scorched and pockmarked from the ongoing battle. Distant blaster fire and muffled screams served as a constant reminder of the high stakes. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the Academy, the resistance from Zorlak forces intensified. Green-skinned soldiers seemed to lurk around every corner, their pulse rifles spitting deadly bolts of energy. Jesse and the Deltan security officers returned fire, the air crackling with the exchange of weapons discharge. "We can't keep this up," Neso panted, his blue skin slick with sweat. "There's too many of them." Jesse gritted his teeth, scanning the hallway for options. His gaze landed on a ventilation grate near the floor. "There," he said, pointing. "Lara, you know the layout of this place. Can that get us to the central atrium?" The female Deltan nodded, her quick mind already calculating the route. "Yes, I believe so. We should be able to bypass the main corridors." "Then that's our move," Jesse said. He pried open the grate and ushered the team inside, following Lara's lead. They crawled through the cramped ventilation shafts, the metal walls amplifying every sound. Jesse winced as his broad shoulders scraped against the sides. The Deltans, with their slighter frames, had an easier time navigating the narrow passage. After several tense minutes, they emerged into the Academy's central atrium. The vast space was enclosed by a glass dome, allowing the red glow of the besieged planet to filter in. Towering alien sculptures and exotic plants, once meticulously maintained, were now toppled and charred. In the center of the atrium, a group of roughly 50 Deltan students and faculty members huddled together, their faces etched with fear. Surrounding them was a platoon of 20 heavily armed Zorlak soldiers, led by a massive, scar-riddled commander. The Zorlak leader stood a full head taller than his subordinates, his muscular frame encased in heavy battle armor. "Chrysax," Neso whispered, his voice trembling. "He's one of the Zorlak's most ruthless commanders." Jesse assessed the situation, his tactical mind racing. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but he had faced worse odds before. "Kyle," he said, turning to the sharp-eyed Deltan marksman. "See that balcony up there? I need you to post up and start picking off those soldiers." Kyle nodded, his jaw set with determination. He scurried up a nearby staircase, seeking the high ground. "The rest of you with me," Jesse said. "We'll hit them head-on, buy Kale time to thin their numbers." Lara, Neso, and the Deltan security officers readied their weapons, fear mingling with resolve in their eyes. Jesse took a deep breath, adrenaline surging through his veins. Then, with a battle cry torn from his human lungs, he charged into the fray, energy rifle blazing. The atrium erupted into chaos. Blaster bolts crisscrossed the space, scorching stone and shattering glass. Kyle rained down precise shots from above, each one finding its mark in a Zorlak skull. Jesse and the Deltans clashed with the remaining soldiers, the air filling with the stench of ozone and charred flesh. Despite the Zorlak's superior numbers, Jesse moved like a whirlwind, his human speed and agility unmatched. He ducked and wove through the lumbering aliens, his energy rifle spitting death with every squeeze of the trigger. One by one, the Zorlaks fell, their lifeless bodies littering the once pristine atrium floor. 12 of the soldiers had fallen to Jesse's rifle when Krazax let out a deafening roar of rage. The massive Zorlak commander charged at Jesse, a crackling energy axe clutched in his clawed hands. Jesse barely managed to roll aside as the axe cleaved the air where he had stood a heartbeat before. The two warriors faced off, circling each other amidst the carnage. Krazax lunged and swung, his axe a blur of sizzling energy. Jesse dodged and parried with his rifle, the weapon's reinforced barrel barely withstanding the brutal impacts. Sweat poured down Jesse's face, mingling with the blood from a gash on his forehead. Krazax pressed the attack, his strength unrelenting. Jesse's arms trembled from exertion, his rifle pushed to its limit. In a desperate gambit, Jesse ducked under a decapitating swing and lashed out with a kick, his boot connecting with Krazax's knee. The Zorlak stumbled, thrown off balance. Seizing the opening, Jesse wrenched the energy axe from Krazax's grip and spun, putting all his strength into a mighty chop. The axe blade, now humming in Jesse's hands, cleaved through Krazax's thick neck, severing head from shoulders. The Zorlak commander's body toppled backwards, gore splattering the atrium floor. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of cooling energy weapons and the ragged breathing of the survivors. The remaining Zorlaks, seeing their leader fall, turned tail and fled, their resolve shattered. Jesse stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving, the energy axe still crackling in his grip. Neso and the other Deltans stared at him, their expressions a mix of awe and primal fear. In that moment, they saw the human not as a professor or a guardian, but as a being of terrifying lethality. Jesse ignored their stares, his focus unwavering. He was battered, bleeding, and bone-weary, but he knew there was no time to rest. The orb of Zor still lay hidden somewhere within the academy, and every moment brought the Zorlaks closer to claiming its power. Gritting his teeth against the pain, Jesse rallied his shell-shocked team and pressed on, leaving the atrium and its grisly scene behind. The hunt for the orb continued, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Jesse and his battered team pushed onward, their resolve hardened by the sacrifices they had endured. The orb of Zor was within reach, hidden in the Academy's underground vault, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. A guttural roar echoed through the corridor, followed by the scrape of claws on metal. Jesse held up a fist, bringing the group to a halt. He peered around the corner and cursed under his breath. A pack of genetically engineered Zorlak warbeasts prowled the hallway, blocking their path. The monstrous creatures stood 15 feet long, with 6 muscular legs and razor-sharp claws. Their armored hides glistened under the emergency lights. Jesse's mind raced, analyzing the threat. Direct confrontation would be suicide. They needed a plan. His gaze fell on a control panel on the wall, and an idea sparked to life. He turned to Lara. "The Academy's holographic systems, can you access them from here?" Lara nodded, her fingers already flying over the panel. "I think so. What do you have in mind?" Jesse grinned, a glint of human ingenuity in his eyes. "We're going to put on a little show for our scaly friends." Moments later, a lifelike hologram of a wounded Deltan flickered to life further down the corridor. The warbeasts' heads snapped towards the image, their predatory instincts triggered. With a chorus of savage roars, they charged towards the hologram, claws scraping against the metal floor. Jesse and the team pressed themselves against the wall as the beasts thundered past. As the last one entered the narrow section of corridor, Jesse nodded to Lara. "Now!" Lara input a command, and a shimmering force field sprang to life, sealing the warbeasts inside the corridor. They slammed against the barrier, roaring in frustration, but it held fast. "Move!" Jesse barked, urging the team forward. They raced towards the vault, the snarls of the trapped warbeasts fading behind them. But as they approached the final stretch, a flurry of movement caught Jesse's eye. 10 figures shimmered into view, their cloaking technology deactivating. Elite Zorlak assassins, each wielding twin plasma blades that hummed with deadly energy. The assassins attacked in a blur of speed and steel. Jesse and the Deltans met them head-on, energy rifles and plasma blades clashing in a lethal dance. Jesse ducked and wove, his human reflexes pushed to their limit. He parried a slash, the plasma blade sizzling inches from his face. In his peripheral vision, he saw an assassin materialize behind him, blades poised to strike. Time seemed to slow. Jesse braced himself for the killing blow. But it never came. Neso slammed into the assassin, two blue forms tumbling to the ground. Jesse whirled, energy rifle firing, but he was an instant too late. The assassin's blade pierced Neso's chest, a sickening crunch of bone and flesh. Neso's eyes met Jesse's, a mix of pain and grim satisfaction in their alien depths. Then he went limp, his life fading. Rage and grief surged through Jesse's veins. Neso's sacrifice would not be in vain. He unleashed a primal roar, launching himself at the remaining assassins. Lara and the other Deltans rallied around him, their shared loss fueling their determination. They fought with a ferocity that surprised even Jesse. Plasma blades met energy beams, sparks flying. One by one the assassins fell, their lifeless forms littering the corridor. Panting, bleeding, the survivors stood before the vault door. An impenetrable energy barrier shimmered before them, the final obstacle between them and the orb. Lara stepped forward, her face grim with concentration. She interfaced with the control panel, her fingers a blur. Sweat beaded her forehead as she worked to hack the system. With a hiss of decompressing air, the barrier dissipated. The vault door swung open, revealing a small chamber bathed in golden light. There, hovering in a stasis field, was the Orb of Zor. It pulsed with ancient power, its surface swirling with arcane glyphs. Jesse reached for the orb, his fingers closing around its warm metallic surface. As he lifted it from the field, a deep, menacing voice filled the chamber. A towering hologram flickered to life, the image of a scarred, malevolent Zorlak, Zorgax, the supreme leader of the invasion force. "Well done, human," Zorgax sneered. "You've played your part perfectly." Cold dread crept up Jesse's spine. The entire invasion, all the death and destruction had been a ruse, a ploy to lure him to the orb. Zorgax's hologram loomed over them, his eyes glinting with cruel amusement. Only a human can unlock the orb's true potential, and now, thanks to you, its power will be mine. A deep rumble shook the vault, dust raining from the ceiling. Zorgax's laughter filled the air, a sound of twisted triumph. "You have 5 minutes before the Academy is vaporized, a parting gift to ensure you don't interfere further. Farewell, human." The hologram winked out, leaving Jesse and the survivors in stunned silence. The rumbling intensified, the first tremors of the self-destruct sequence. Jesse's grip tightened on the orb, his jaw clenched with determination. They had come too far, lost too much to fail now. "Run!" he shouted, sprinting for the exit. The Deltans followed close behind, their feet pounding against the shuddering floor. The race was on, a desperate flight to escape the doomed academy before it was reduced to atoms. Jesse clutched the orb to his chest, a grim certainty taking root in his heart. This was only the beginning. The real battle for the galaxy's fate still lay ahead, and he would be ready to meet it head-on, no matter the cost. Jesse and the survivors sprinted through the crumbling academy. The Orb of Zor clutched tightly to Jesse's chest. The floor heaved beneath their feet as the self-destruct sequence tore the structure apart. Chunks of debris rained down, the air choked with dust and smoke. "Move, move!" Jesse shouted, urging his team onward. They leaped over gaping chasms, dodged falling rubble, their lungs burning with exertion. The hangar bay was just ahead, their last hope for escape. But as they reached the entrance, a chilling sight greeted them. 50 Zorlak soldiers poured into the hangar, their weapons trained on the humans and Deltans. At their head, a figure straight out of a nightmare, Krazax, his once defeated body now augmented with gleaming cybernetics. The Zorlak commander's eyes glowed with malevolent red light, his metal-laced body bristling with weaponry. "Foolish human," Krazax sneered, his voice a grating fusion of organic and synthetic tones. "You thought you could defeat me. I am eternal. I am Krazax, the Undying." Jesse's grip tightened on his energy rifle, his mind racing. They were hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned, but then his gaze fell on a Deltan shuttle near the back of the hangar. A desperate plan formed in his mind. He turned to Lara, pressing the orb into her hands. "Take this, get to the shuttle, we'll hold them off." Lara's eyes widened. "Jesse, no, we can't leave you." "You have to," Jesse said, his voice brooking no argument. "The orb is all that matters, go." With a pained look, Lara nodded. She turned and sprinted for the shuttle, the orb clutched to her chest. Jesse and Cale took up positions behind a damaged dropship, their weapons leveled at the advancing Zorlax. The air crackled with energy as they opened fire, blaster bolts streaking across the hangar. Zorlax fell, their chests smoldering from the humans' deadly, accurate shots. But for every one that dropped, 2 more surged forward, heedless of their own casualties. Cale fired shot after shot, his face grim with determination. "Jesse!" he shouted over the din of battle. "Charges on the fuel tanks! We can take a bunch of these bastards with us!" Jesse nodded, understanding Cale's intent. A final defiant stand. "Do it!" Cale primed the charges and hurled them towards the towering fuel tanks that lined the hangar walls. Fire in the hole. The world erupted in flames. A deafening explosion rocked the hangar as the tanks detonated, engulfing dozens of Zorlax in a roiling fireball. The blast wave slammed into Jesse, sending him flying. He crashed to the deck, his ears ringing, vision swimming. Through the haze of smoke and pain, Jesse saw Cale's broken body lying nearby. A jagged shard of metal protruding from his chest. The Deltan's eyes met Jesse's, a flicker of life still burning within. "Give 'em hell, Jesse," Cale rasped. Then the light faded and he was gone. Grief and rage surged through Jesse's veins. He dragged himself to his feet, snatching up his fallen rifle. The hangar was a flaming ruin, the mangled bodies of Zorlax strewn across the deck. But through the inferno a figure emerged. Krazax, his metal body scorched and dented, but still very much alive. The Zorlak commander stalked towards Jesse, a crackling energy blade clutched in his clawed hand. Jesse met Krazax's charge head-on. Rifle and energy blade clashed in a storm of sparks and shearing metal. Jesse ducked and wove, his battered body screaming in protest. But he pushed through the pain, his human will unbreakable. Krazax was relentless, his augmented strength and speed unmatched. His blade slipped past Jesse's guard, carving a searing line across the human's chest. Jesse stumbled back, blood seeping through the tatters of his uniform. But he surged forward again, a primal roar tearing from his throat. He brought his rifle down in a devastating overhead blow, the weapon shattering against Krazax's metal skull. The Zorlak reeled, his cybernetic systems flickering and shorting out. Jesse pressed the attack, raining blow after blow upon Krazax's faltering form. With a final wrenching twist, he tore the energy blade from the Zorlak's grip and plunged it deep into Krazax's chest, piercing the pulsing core of his cybernetic heart. Krazax convulsed, a garbled cry of static and agony erupting from his vocoder. Then he fell, the light fading from his eyes, the undying commander finally defeated. Jesse stood over Krazax's lifeless husk, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his countless wounds. The academy shuddered around him, the self-destruct countdown nearing its end. Through the haze of pain and exhaustion, Jesse spotted an escape pod nestled in the corner of the hangar. He half stumbled, half crawled towards it, every movement an agony. As he reached the pod, Jesse hauled himself inside, his vision blurring at the edges. With the last of his strength, he punched the launch controls. The pod rocketed out of the hangar, mere seconds before the academy exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave slammed into the pod, sending it tumbling end over end through the void. Darkness crept in at the edges of Jesse's vision. As unconsciousness claimed him, he saw the Deltan shuttle carrying Lara and the orb streak past, escaping the doomed planet. A faint smile tugged at Jesse's bloodied lips. They had done it. The orb was safe. The Deltans had a chance. Then the darkness took him, and Jesse Evans knew no more. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.